I was informed that some of you weren't aware of the history of this project and how it all came together, so I think that's my role tonight, and then I'll let the brains of the bunch take over. I'm going to go way back. January of 21, I got a call from at that time, the attorney for mayor and council, Gary Cohen, prior to Jonathan Rothschild. Gary called me and he asked, and I will, for transparency, Gary's a personal friend of mine. Gary said that the town was struggling and was entering into possible costly litigation because of the Homeowners Association, Rompson, the Canadian owner and lender on the project that has now closed, and the town. And not to bring me into the project, but to ask for my advice if there was anything I could offer to help guide the town through this. So I said, absolutely, I'm happy to take a look. Then the question was asked, would I be interested in developing the current entitled multifamily section of this project, the larger section? And immediately I said no, because I knew the sentiment in Oro Valley wasn't for multifamily at this time and didn't want to deal with it. So soon after that, Gary Cohen was appointed as a Superior Court judge by Governor Ducey, and he moved on to something else, and Jonathan Rothschild came in. Your town manager at the time, and Jonathan, courted me, brought me in, and said, Ross, here's what we have. Here's what we'd like to do. We need your help to bring all the parties together. There was a combative relationship at the time between the town and Rompson out of Canada. So I explored it. I said, if we're going to do something, I don't want to go through a public process. I don't want to go through a rezoning. And I was told, the beauty of this, Ross, is you won't have to. I shouldn't have to be here tonight. The beauty of this deal, Ross, is it's a settlement agreement. It's done in executive session. These are their words. So I was convinced to go along with it. Why did they choose me? Why didn't they go out to the greater community? There's a bunch of hack developers like me out there looking at deals, right? They chose me, I think, because they trusted me. They knew whatever I agreed to, I would follow through. I remember Paul Kiesler said there's 3 developers in this town in the decades he's been, and Paul Kiesler is one of yours, said there's 3 developers in this town. They might be tough to go through the process with, and there's negotiation that comes with the territory, but there's 3 developers in this town that if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it, me being one of them. So I think that's why they brought me in. So here I am with your existing town manager and your attorney for mayor and council. I believe that's what Jonathan Rothschild is or was. And I reached out to the Rompson folks, and we started to put this deal together. Everybody had to bring something to the table, money. And they had to do it very quickly. There wasn't any time. There was a race to the finish line, a political race to the finish line. I was not privy as to why, but I played along. There was not any time for me to do the proper due diligence or the civil work that goes along with a project like this. So what did we do? We added things into these agreements, the settlement agreement and the easement agreement, that would provide me with some flexibility along the way because we didn't understand it like I normally would want to. I was told over and over again, Ross, trust us. This is going to work out. At that time, I had the existing entitlements of 3 stories and 133 units. I didn't need anything more. I didn't need the 1.5 acres. I didn't need the sliver of piece of property that I ended up purchasing. I was fine. it worked until the town and the conservation group said, Ross, regardless of what you're approved for right now, regardless of what you're entitled to build right now, we want you to go down in height. So 3 stories now becomes 2 stories. Okay, let's talk about that. What happens? If you can't go vertical, you have to go horizontal. So that's what we explored. Their ideas were to move into the easement agreement for certain things as described in the settlement and the easement agreement, and also allow the same descriptions of what's in these agreements to apply in the easement agreement to the sliver piece of property, or people call it the fish piece or whatever it's shaped as. And the language in these agreements are identical. In my opinion, I should be allowed to build apartments in the sliver piece because they're described the same way. They're described as the OV-132 parcel. Getting into this with staff, they said, Ross, staff wasn't a party to these negotiations. And in all fairness, that worked out to be a drag for everybody. But they weren't. So staff explained to me that we're not going to support regardless of what the agreement says, and there might be a difference of opinion, but we're not going to support a building built in the sliver piece. But what we will support, put a clubhouse in there and a pool, because that could be considered recreational space. Thought about it, creative, then decided that would put the clubhouse and the pool in the back of house of this project. It doesn't give it any entry statement, any curb appeal, and it's not a project that I wanted to be affiliated with. So then I went back to staff and I said, we've redesigned this entire project in good faith. We have the clubhouse and the pool out front now, and we're not going to build a clubhouse in the open space area, the sliver. We're not going to build apartments in there. We're just going to add some parking and create open space. The response from staff was, you will have our Uber support. Those were the words. So then I thought I was done until this 1.5 came up. I've had a lot of meetings on the 1.5. In fact, in a meeting, and the reason why it was described as approximately 1.5 is because we didn't know. We didn't know how much extra space would be needed for open space and parking and to follow your zoning. So we guessed at 1.5, but we put in the word approximately for a reason. It ended up being a little less than 1.5 plus the drainage basins, which are about 0.3 of an acre each, for a combined total of 1.9. But just the parking area is 1.36. 1.36. So less than the 1.5. Now, what are the basins going to look like? They're going to look a lot nicer than what's out there today because they're going to be newly vegetated, newly landscaped. At that time, when we said approximately 1.5 without any due diligence, without any civil engineering, I would say today, our guess was pretty good. We had no idea at that time, as we are being pushed to close. All the town cared about at that time, and when I say the town, I'm talking about the town manager and the attorney for mayor and council, was getting my money across the finish line. I trusted the process. I still am trying to trust the process, but it's been an unfair and extremely costly process. Again, I remind you, I was invited into this. This wasn't a project that I sought out. So Rory will talk. If there's any questions about the settlement agreement or the easement agreement or the history, I'm happy to answer them. But when it comes to getting into the nuts and bolts of the project, I am not that person.